Hello, everyone. I'm Sandy. This is my co-host, Stephanie.
Hello, I'm
And,
Stephanie, co-host for Sandy.
and we are here trying to build something currently called Aredhall. It's a nonprofit. And basically the idea is that, I guess that's what we'll be discussing today and in future episodes. But part of it is that housing, I would say, has become extremely expensive. And at least for me, one of the problems with finding good employees, I'm in electrical and construction. One of the problems with that is that living where I am in Summit County, in Colorado, um, there is no cheap housing. Even what they consider to be employee housing, the affordable housing is still very expensive compared to national standards for just regular housing. So the first question that people ask when I'm asking if they're interested in being an electrician is, how's the housing situation? Because the work is here, but no one can come here to work because they can afford to be driving an hour or whatever it is, especially in the snowy conditions.
Yeah.
So I guess that's part of a piece of our inspiration for wanting to start this. I don't know. What would you say was an inspirational thought that kind of led us to where we are, Stephanie?
One of the things that inspired me most about building Aredhall was in this small town that I used to live in, that you live in. There is very little opportunity to build community outside of the church. There is no other institutionalized community, and I really saw the bar that I ran, Baker's Brewery, I really saw that as an institutionalized community, and really the only other option that people had was to go to the bar. And I don't really know if the bar is the best choice for many of those people. Lots of them are alcoholics, for example, or have to go to work, or are felons, or
Probably better if they weren't at an alcoholic
probably better if they weren't
establishment.
at the bar. And it's this idea, if you want to hang out with anyone at all, that's where you have to go, and that's where you have to do it. And why couldn't there be a way to build this community outside of the bar? I had 5 siblings, and we had this completely crazy, raucous culture that involved games and fights and friendships and tea and movies once a week and playing outside and riding horses. And it felt innate. And now nothing feels innate. Everything feels contrived. If you're trying to build a community, if you're trying to be friends with people, what's the reason? Why are you friends? Why are you talking to me? You get this sort of attitude. It's like, I just want to play a card game. It's kind of a weird thing to tell someone, especially at the bar. And so for me, it's a lot about building a place where people could live together, but also build a place where they can be a family.
Indeed.
I'm excited to finally get on the line, so that we can talk about Aredhall, which is a project that we have been working on for quite some time. And it's constantly evolving. Every day we're working on all sorts of different aspects. But let's talk a little bit about what Aredhall is. What would it mean for it to come to fruition?
Sure. Well, yeah. Aredhall, I think, is kind of a culmination of multiple ideas that I think have been wandering around in both of our heads for a while. Obviously, growing up wanting to build empires and secret orders has always been an interest.
Yep, definitely the Wheel of Time sort of anything to do with epic fantasy battles, stories, living off the land has come into major play here for me.
I always think of robots. See a need, fill a need.
See a need, fill a need. I love that movie. That is a great film. Underrated.
This is Sierra. You cannot see her, but
She is the hand.
there is a hand. Yeah. Well, I would say as inspiration, I think one of the hardest things for me is trying to describe what Aredhall is.
Yeah. So I mean, but really, how if you could take a snapshot of what your dream is in 10 years or 20 years or however long it takes, what's a snapshot in your brain? What are people doing? What does the place look like? What is the scope? Who's there? What's a snapshot for you?
Well, I feel like I would consider it to be like a network of villages almost. I don't want to be separate from what I'd consider to be the normal economy or normal culture. But at some point it's kind of like city-states, like small city-states that interact with the regular world. They're hopefully self
Sustaining?
yeah, self-sustaining. They're growing food. They're doing their own businesses. I'd say most of the businesses would probably be level 1, level 2, kind of low tech, having a winery or that kind of thing. Not really starting tech companies per se, but it's kind of what normal people do, which is like myself as an electrician, doing electrical work or building houses. And I feel like it could be hundreds or thousands of people that are choosing to live life outside of the rat race.
That's a really nice way of putting it. It's like acknowledging the rat race for what it is and that we are all constantly moving forward in this ladder building, climbing, scraping to get to the top, and then just sort of stepping to the side and letting that pass by and taking a breath and creating the same life but slower.
Yeah, I guess it would be like if I were a hamster and I was sitting around in my cage with all my other buddies and I see them wake up in the morning, they do their, this is how to be successful, 5 a.m. wake up, and they all get on their hamster wheels, and they're running as fast as they can on their hamster wheels, and I'm just sitting over here like, what the heck are you guys doing?
You're not even going anywhere.
Yeah, it's, and I feel like a lot of people end up having these kind of thoughts. They're like, well, why do we grow up, go to high school, go to college, get the job, work until we can't enjoy ourselves anymore, and then retire? And not to sound too morbid, but it's kind of like, the world's designed itself purely for the purpose of production and nothing else. We kind of forgot about all the other things, like satisfaction.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So we're talking about like satisfaction, job satisfaction for me particularly, but also the satisfaction that you get from like basic needs, just the human interaction.
I guess how I... Sorry. Yeah, I guess how I always hear you guys speaking about it is like almost like a pocket or a rendition of generational living. That, yeah, not everyone's family, but you're all in a community working together, wanting to be a part of each other's lives to build something better. And if that's sharing meals and creating, items or projects that you guys can accomplish together, while all living in a place where you guys can have a village or a community that all values, I don't know, what hard work and dedication and whatever you want your origins to be, but it's this sense of family and community outside of the normal structures that tend to scare people off, such as churches and stuff like that. But that's kind of what I hear sometimes you guys talking about, is Aredhall is a rendition of what people used to live in, which is the village mentality. You know, everyone knew each other, and the baker got his eggs from the person who had the chickens, and he gave him a piece of bread, you know, for his eggs, and that person, it was all kind of more communal instead of these individual pockets.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, generational living. Kind of how I imagine it would be something like Fiddler on the Roof, where if you needed your roof fixed, there was the guy that did the thing to fix the roof. Or if you needed meat, you went to the butcher. And you knew him, you know his name. And, you know, at some point you knew where the meat was coming from. You know, there was a certain amount of trust. I think that's a big part of that, I think, is trust.
Trust, I agree, is a really huge part of they call it social capital in that book I'm reading. The social capital, and the basis of the community is that trust, that everything you do, even the most basic interactions, has some basic level of trust. Even if you believe that the person you're talking to for the first time, you've never spoken to this person in your life, if you believe that that is a good person and that they have the same intent of just good intentions towards you that you have towards them, that is this basic level of communal trust. And as soon as you have this idea that this person might not have the same intentions towards you, the trust breaks down. And that's really what's happened inside of the community. It was very tight, it was very close, but now we have moved so far away from the nuclear family that don't have that basic trust for even one other person, because they don't have that family community, that family bond. They don't have the nuclear social expectations that you're gonna like get married and have kids, because so many people don't do that anymore. And fewer people are doing it. It's exponential growth on those numbers. It's crazy.
Yeah, a little dreadful to think about, I suppose, sometimes.
But not if you build a landing pad for it. It doesn't have to be this horrible, dreadful thing. They just don't have a place, an identity, a direction, a way to set up their lives in this new direction. And I feel like Aredhall could be that if we do it well.
Yeah, I guess an easier way of thinking of that is like kind of like when it comes to the rat race and kind of sidestepping and kind of like getting off the treadmill. I think it is kind of this idea that, you know, Aredhall's job isn't going to be like Atlas, where we're trying to just hold up, you know, the entirety of crumbling civilization. At some point it's like, you know what, we are where we are. We're going to do what we think is best. And at some point, you know, we look at a couple issues, and we're like, you know, can we fix this problem? And, you know, can we do it simply with effort? You know, without needing a huge amount of money or whatever it is. Yeah, and I do like that generational living kind of idea, because that is something, you know, if you were in a household, a 3-generation household with a bunch of people, kids running around, you know, the elders, I feel like you didn't have to do anything to feel like you were where you belong. And it's kind of like the thing with, you know, showing up to, you know, at the bar to play poker or whatever. At some point, you kind of feel like, all right, well, I have to go here to play poker in order to, you know, get out of the house or whatever. And it's kind of like the whole socializing aspect ends up being kind of this forced kind of feeling. Whereas with the generational living, when you go home, it'd be like going home. It's kind of this idea where you have a place where there's other people if you need something or just want to hang out. And there is no expectation. It's just as long as we all hold to the same standards of life, which is typically what holds generational living together, is that everyone kind of generally agrees on the same standards of living. It's basically, yeah, the second chance of having a family, not with family members, it's,
Right.
as
Well,
a community.
That's where the generational living aspect kind of breaks down a little bit. It's like you used to grow up on a farm with all of your siblings, and you all had to work for like the same, goal, and you all had the same comforts and so like that. But I think where Aredhall breaks that form a little bit is you want to be a community where you have a reason to return home, because that's where your friends and your family are and your community. And it's amazing how much mentally you break down once you start to isolate. And society now is you grow up, you get married, and you move away. You move away from your support system, and then mom and dad are left there to raise kids. And they've never raised kids before, but we're magically supposed to know how to raise kids. We moved away from our support system, and even single people, it's like you enjoy moving away for a certain period of time. You want to like spear your own place, but it gets kind of listless after a while, and you're like, well, why am I doing this? You eventually find friends. You eventually find a community that gives you purpose in life, and that's hopefully what I think Aredhall is trying to be, is to stop people from getting listless or from losing all of their support network. Like, a 25-year-old mom for the first time should have an abundance of people to ask, hey, my kid's nose is green. Is that kind of normal-ish, or should I be rushing to the pediatrician? It's like, oh, well, try this. There's a lot of community that you can pull from. And it can also be young men who have nowhere to go. It's like, well, normally my family would have been blacksmiths, but we don't do that anymore, so I don't know what to do. Well, it's like, well, if you want to join a trade, there's a community here that can mentor you, and
Josh over there, he's kind of like a blacksmith or whatever.
Yeah.
Go hang out with him.
That's huge. I actually just recently started working with someone, and I told them about this idea of Aredhall. And they were like, that is the most amazing idea, because he doesn't know how to live as an adult. He said that his parents basically left him to do whatever he wanted when he was 13. His father physically left, and his mother had no interest in raising him. So he thinks that his emotional and social, all of the things you need to learn about being an adult, stopped at 13. And to relearn that, so not in generational living as in your relatives, but people who are older than you who could be like, well, this is how you get a girlfriend, or talk if you wanted to go to a town council meeting, or file your taxes, or just get a job. How do you dress to go to get a job? What are the right answers?
This is how you cook and clean and literally just maintain your life.
Yeah, so many people don't know how to cook anymore. It blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, not to go too far into it, but at some point, and as technology goes, I feel like we've been developing technology and inventions rather rapidly. Oh, well, we don't need any of that traditional stuff like family structure. The village life or community, we have social media now, or whatever. Social media now, it's going to connect all of us, and we're just going to be one huge family, and it didn't end up that way. I feel like we got more isolated with Facebook than I think we were originally thinking was going to happen.
And yeah, I'm not even sure if isolation is exactly what happened, but it dehumanized us. Instead of having human interactions, most of those things that you read on Facebook, they are not things that I would say to you. Even though I don't live near you and I want to share things about my life with you, if I posted that, I wouldn't be telling you in person. I'd be telling you via Facebook. But if I drove up there, it would be a completely different experience than what you post. And what I think is, it just dehumanizes that you're looking at somebody else's photo album with no context.
Well, the other thing it does is you only post, very rarely do you post things that make you, they're not in your best moment, if that makes sense. Like, there are people that, they'll post, oh, this was really tough for me. But even that is distilled. But when you live in closer quarters or in a community where, let's say you have a weekly community meal together, you see each other at 6 a.m. with your hair rumpled, still in your PJs, going to grab bacon and eggs, you start to see real people and not like this filtered version of what you want people to see. And I think especially with the ending of the millennial generation and the uptake of the Gen Zs, there's been this kind of want for more authenticity within relationships, but it's impossible to get when everyone's 100 miles away or a 2-hour car ride. It's just, you can't do it. You want to be able to grab that beer, but yeah, if you're an alcoholic or whatever, you don't want to go grab that beer there. There needs to be a safe space or a place that's comfortable or feels like home where, oh man, I had a terrible day at work and, I didn't do well with my trades or my apprenticeship, and, it's not at a, it's home. It's full of a bunch of different types of people that can hopefully add value to your life and hopefully build you to be stronger and better. And I feel like most of the communities we have now, whether it, if it's church, it's, churches have their own issues, but there's not a whole lot of communities that are there to build each other up to be better people.
I feel like where the church thing usually ends up going, and it's the same thing as Facebook, everything's very performative. Even though you're supposed to be very forgiving and all this kind of stuff in church, it ends up being this very superficial kind of like, we all have to look perfect. This isn't what we usually look like, but we're going to gloss over all of our mistakes, and go and perform with all the other families at church, And we do that, I think, for me, when it comes to Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is, I feel like there's been such a long period of perfectly curated content. Everything's auto-tuned. Everything's, filtered up when it comes to videos and pictures. And like even for concerts now, I don't know if it's that they don't allow it, but everything's lip synced, or there's a lot of lip syncing that goes on, because it's like they don't want to hear the mistakes, and it really takes the life out of you. I still really enjoy listening to the Strokes. They're kind of a grungy band, very millennial, but at some point their music is great beat. They you can tell they're kind of singing out of tune here or there. There's lots of sliding around with their notes. But it's very enjoyable because of that. Whereas, I can't remember. He's like PewDiePie. He's the music guy. But he's a commentator or whatever on music, and after watching his videos, I can't not hear auto-tune in songs anymore. In order to learn, you have to making mistakes in order to actually learn something. If we're all using ChatGPT and just pretending like we know everything, we're actually becoming dumber as a species.
Okay, ChatGPT didn't hear you say that.
Right. Don't strike us down, Google. Yeah.
No, I agree. Actually, stepping outside of the hamster wheel, off the treadmill, it's about, can you live with the imperfections? Can you live with this simpler version that isn't always grow?
Yeah, and that's for work or whatever. The expectation is that we all work really hard until you're 65, and then you go and sit on a beach somewhere. there's different movements that go on. There's like what is it? The retire early.
Yeah, retire by 40.
It's like a, retire early kind of movement. They were like, be super frugal, and then you can retire at 40 and then actually enjoy being retired because you're younger and still healthy. And then there was the whole movement with micro retirements where you work for 5 years and then not work for 2 years or whatever it is. And I think all of them are trying to get it to the same idea, which is what we're trying to smack on the nose, which is this idea that maybe being ultra productive as a society isn't the best thing for humanity and is producing all of this really worth the sacrifice.
Well, I think the point you're trying to make is you're not creating a commune, right? You're not creating a commune where people just sing around, like sit around fire circles strumming their guitars. That's not the point.
Yeah, I don't want to be Amish. If I didn't want to use technology, we would just create our own little Amish community, right? We'd go back to our roots, use the horses and plow. At some point, I want to use what we have created so far as a civilization. But I feel like our focus is totally off. Everyone knows that because it's obvious looking at the stats for depression. It's obvious for looking at the stats for divorce and all the other things. It's like no one's happy. We're here in this, first world country and we're dying earlier than everyone else is. And it's all these unhealthy things with fast food or whatever. It's very basic things that we're wanting to change. It's not like we're reinventing the wheel. Yeah, very basic stuff.
It's basic to a certain point, but I think it's also building blocks for people who don't know how to be a part of society more.
Looking 5-10 years into the future, that is kind of the hope for me, I guess, would be villages. Getting into the non-profits or whatever it is, I feel like making it to where it's work to live, where you aren't worried about having to pay rent and that it's going to go up every 6 months and you're paying more towards rent than you're making on your job, so you take up a second job and that kind of thing with the rat race. I feel like we could have all these little villages, small and big, kind of all over the place. And people could live there permanently or just temporarily kind of come and go. Well, it's a problem to describe because no one else is doing what we are trying to do right now. At least in the complete scope of what Aredhall is.
Yeah.
There's the church over here that has a food pantry, and they are keeping people from starving to death. There's these people over here that are running some type of program so that there's housing for people who work in the area. Right. There's other people over here that are trying to put together bingo so that people get out of their house and play something with their fellow people in the community. No one's doing Aredhall.
Right. I mean, you could describe it like a tiny house village too, where it's,
and that was one of the original concepts, absolutely.
Yeah, but the concept is that where you have your own kitchen and that you do have autonomy to be by yourself. The point is you want to join in a community that isn't a commune, because communes
cult,
right? Yeah. The point is that we're not telling people not to be hard workers. We want productive, stoic, virtue, good people. And good people are not always nice people. There's a big difference. We want good people with skills and purpose in their life, which is completely different than the hippy-dippy, let's go live on a commune and do our own vegetables, right? It's very communistic. This is still a capitalistic idea, just executed differently. And it's incredibly difficult to get that across. Well, I don't think we haven't figured out how to get that across yet.
Well, it's hard to say capitalistic because, again, the economy behind capitalism is that you have to grow every year.
Right.
Point of that is growth. And then, of course, greed is the other aspect. So, like, there's like this, it's tricky because, yes, we want to learn and become educated and productive, but how do we do that outside of this idea that this year I made 5 cabinets, next year I have to make 6 cabinets, and the year after that I have to make 7 cabinets. How about 5 cabinets will always be enough as long as you still make 5 or whatever it is that is enough for your community? It's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because and that's part of, I think, why it's taken us so long to come up with these ideas, is because I'm really having to start over. Like, when I'm thinking, what is Aredhall? I have to go back to, well, what makes an economy? And it's like, okay, these are historically all of the structures of economy we've ever had as humanity. And going through each of them and being like, these are why this doesn't work, and this system doesn't work because of this. And, and there's a lot to be said when it comes to debate of, well, capitalism has worked really well so far. Or this type of political structure with a republic or whatever seems to work well, whereas this does not. So still I'm kind of in that phase where none of it's self-evident. We're breaking down to first principles and we're having to second guess everything.
Well, the hard part is like capitalism is great because it's free markets where people can be entrepreneurs and make whatever they want as long as they're willing to work as hard as they want, right?
Yeah.
But where it starts breaking down is capitalism is a dog-eat-dog world, and within the Aredhall community, it's people uplifting other people. And at some point, you're either going to have the attitude to embrace it and want to do that, or you have to go back and join the rat race, which is the dog-eat-dog world. And that's a really hard concept to get through to people.
That's a really interesting way of putting it, for sure.
If the end goal is growth, then all of the other outcomes aren't determinable. So at some point, like our end goal is human satisfaction, I'd say. If there's anything to be said for Aredhall taking over the entire United States and it being the predominant cultural whatever, for the U.S. I study Stoicism, and that's one of the focuses is through discipline and hard work and, facing reality and whatever it is, you're able to learn to live a satisfying life.
You're not making a community full of hedonists. You're making community that wants to be together like a family without the family ties, and there's a lot of benefits that come with that, whether it's the idea of generational living where the older ones pass their wisdom down to the younger ones, or those who have no family magically find a community that feels like family.
Yeah, when it came to economics and economic structures and where I feel like communes and things typically fall apart after at least a single generation of operation is motivation. And that's one of the hardest things to do, is to motivate people when there isn't money involved. At some point that's what motivates people to stay in the rat race, is because they get paid, and paid more typically the harder they work. Whereas for us, the hope is that people work because that is their passion, and that there is also an element of getting paid. It's just not money.
Well, I think you're wrong in one aspect where the hope is that the harder you work, the more you pay, but the more you get paid. But in a lot of people, they are working jobs that we all need, such as cashiers or line cooks or lower, apprenticeships as a plumber. I mean, as a plumber for apprenticeship, you might start at $20 an hour, which that might sound like a lot somewhere else in the country, but where we are, that is like below the poverty line by so much.
I don't know. We can have entire episodes just on economic structures and what we're trying to do. I feel like
I think that's what we maybe start on next time we're recording. Is this one was just getting our thoughts and ideas of what it could possibly be.
Yeah.
And next time it could be going nitty gritty of like, well, this is what it is, and
yeah, I feel like problems. Everyone sees the problems that we have, and
this is what we're hoping.
We are trying to do something about some of them.
Yeah, 100%. Just trying to get something done.
Yeah.
Bye.
Episode number 1. Here it is.
Episode number 1.
Aredhall podcast. I think we were thinking of calling ourselves the Spoken Scroll.
Whoa. Wow.
Thanks for joining us tonight on the Spoken Scroll.
Indeed. Thank you, everyone. I guess we'll talk to you all next week.